Hey there, it's Brendan Manor with Whitetail Logic. I want to give you guys a quick update on our Genesis no-till corn. This corn right here was planted about the middle of May, and this was drilled directly into pretty much side ground. It had only been worked up one time the previous year, but again, there was a lot of standing vegetation in this area, and we came in and drilled directly through it, and then we followed that up with a glyphosate spraying of 2 quarts per acre. We came back probably about 4 weeks later and did another spraying as those weeds came and replenished in and throughout this corn. This is doing very, very well for the soils that we actually planted this in. The reasoning we did not plant this section conventionally was just because of how poor of conditions the ground was in during planting time. The rest of our field is very good. It's dry. It's easy to plant conventionally by tilling and then taking our old Ford two row corn planter through. But this area was just too wet. It was unable to go through that same process. So this was, we figured this would be a good start and a good test to try out the Genesis no-till to plant corn. And what we found was really, really good results actually, given again the circumstances of the poor soils that this is planted in. The only downside is that it does not have a fertilizer box. So you would have to come back in here and either side dress would be really the optimal choice. We do not have the means of that. And so what we did was just broadcasted the fertilizer directly over this with our big fertilizer hopper on the back of a tractor. That is, again, you're going to be using a little bit more fertilizer, but it's a little bit quicker process, and it seemed to work just fine. A lot of this corn in and throughout here has 2 ears. Plenty of it has three. It's not the tallest stuff we have. I mean, we're only talking about 7.5, 8 foot for some of this. Some of our best corn is about 9 foot tall. But again, given the circumstances, this is doing exceptionally well. The reasoning we're going to consider doing this in the future and why we are definitely going to proceed with more testing is because of the no-till option. Not only is it a lot more efficient, um, you are not damaging the soil because you are not tilling it. It's very important to understand how soil works and what you're doing actually when you go in there and plow it or disc it. What you're really doing is you're disturbing the aggregation of the soil, you're just disturbing the structure of the soil, and it's then not going to work correctly. You are creating pretty much a hard pan, or what's going to end up being a hard pan if you can continue tilling it year in and year out. But at the end of the day, when you're not disturbing the soil, you're not breaking up any earthworm channels in and throughout there, you're not killing any microbes, you're keeping the soil intact and giving it the best opportunity to give your plant that you're growing the nutrients that it needs to flourish. So we are going to do it in the future, not only for the efficiency aspect, but also the soil health benefits. And there are many, many more, and there's a lot better people to talk about soil health benefits other than me. Really, the main point here is that literally we went in there, we drilled this in into standing vegetation, and we sprayed it. That's really all we did. We broadcast a little bit of fertilizer, and this is the results behind you. It's something that it's just so much quicker, so much more efficient, and beneficial that we will consider doing it in the future on all of our corn food plots. The only thing I got to say about the Genesis and planting corn is it tends to do it quite sporadically. We planted this on 14-inch rows instead of our conventional 30-inch rows. The only reasoning for that is because of the inconsistent dropping of the seeds out of the Genesis. It tends to, especially with corn seeds, to bundle them up. They'll drop like 3 or 4 in a row, and then it'll skip maybe 1, 2 feet and then drop some more. So it's not quite the most consistent thing to plant corn, but at the end of the day, we have the same amount of corn here that we do in our other areas just because we're planting on those 14-inch rows rather than 30-inch rows. That's really the only downside, and I don't necessarily even care about that. Again, we're not precision agriculture out here. We're not trying to get the highest yield possible, although that is nice. Really, at the end of the day, we were looking for just a good crop of corn, and also our interseed mix that we go in and spread in and throughout this corn is going to take over those gaps, and any sort of misses in here and skips in here will be taken over by other plants. So again, at the end of the day, we're not wasting any acreage, and that's the most important thing you can do on your property to make it the most efficient coming up this fall to hold your deer herd all throughout the season, not just those first couple weeks. So take this into consideration. If you're thinking about planting corn with the Genesis no-till drill, this is an awesome method. It's something that I definitely recommend for anybody out there that has the means of a no-till drill, go ahead and test it out and see for yourself.